The body is a machine which requires energy in the form of calories to work. We consume calories by eating food and power our body. Food consists of 3 macronutrients: fat, which is 9 calories per gram, and protein and carbohydrates, which are both 4 calories per gram. These nutrients either provide energy or support bodily functions, such as building new cells, repairing muscles, and producing hormones. Essentially, we eat food to provide energy or construction materials to our body. Clean energy and high-quality materials give us what we need to live a happy life. Our body requires a minimum amount of calories to operate each day, so our organs can work and our systems function. This is called our BMR, basal metabolic rate, and it's what we would burn if in a coma or sat on the couch all day and didn't move a muscle. Since even the most sedentary of us do move, this movement causes our body to burn more energy. This is called our total daily expenditure. It includes all the walking we do, standing up, using our phone, and all our other incidental exercise. Typically, a TDEE, how is that for an acronym? Total daily energy expenditure, is a few hundred calories higher than a BMR, basal metabolic rate. You can find yours using an online calculator, but since there are different equations, it's best to use several and take the average. To lose weight, you need to be in a calorie deficit. To gain weight, you need to be in a calorie surplus. The kilos of weight isn't very important. It's the kilos of fat and muscle which is. When shredding or fat burning, you'll lose weight, but you want that weight to be fat, not muscle. Some muscle loss is normal, but you can minimize it by eating high-quality macros, not staying in a deficit for too long, and exercising intensely and intelligently. It's possible to not lose any muscle while shredding, but is it possible for you? Only time and perfect training, nutrition, and recovery will tell. When bulking or muscle building, you need to be in a calorie surplus. It's normal to gain fat during this process, but we aim to mitigate this through clever planning. It's possible to not gain any fat while bulking, but is it possible for you? Only time and perfect training, nutrition, and recovery will tell. When learning how we burn calories beyond our BMR, it's important to understand muscular contractions cause our arms and legs to move, and this requires power. The harder it is to move our body and the longer we do it, the more calories are required to sustain our energy demands. When you exercise intensely, you'll burn many more calories than simply via incidental exercise. Ultimately, people get fat because they eat too much and move too little. Another contributing cause is degraded insulin sensitivity. Think of insulin like a key that opens cells and allows nutrients to enter easily. When someone's consumed excessive carbohydrates and processed foods, insulin doesn't work properly and they're unable to use nutrients and sugar effectively. If insulin was working correctly and one was more active, sugar could be more easily moved into the cell to be burnt as fuel. All carbohydrates break down into glucose, so they act as sugar, whether they're low glycemic, which is slow release, or high glycemic, which is fast release. GI, or glycemic index, measures how fast sugar gets into your bloodstream. With low GI, you have more time to burn sugar as fuel before it's stored as fat, and less time with high GI. In the grand scheme of things, GI isn't something to lose sleep over, but insulin sensitivity, well, that is. The way you can help heal your insulin sensitivity is by cutting back on carbohydrates and allowing your body the chance to reset. Sugar can be inflammatory and cause problems if not utilized as fuel. To manage this, the body pulls it from the bloodstream and stores it as fat for later use. Think of storing sugar or excess calories like earning money but not spending it. If you earn more than you spend, your bank account grows. With money, this is a good thing. The more the better. With fat, not so much. The less stored calories as fat, the better. If you spend or burn the same amount of calories you consume, you'll maintain your weight, just like you'd maintain your bank balance. If 2,000 calories come in and 2,000 calories go out, your weight typically stays the same. It's crucial to get your calories right, but other factors like your macro priorities, calorie quality, and hormones also make a big difference. After personally struggling for 8 years, my goodness, and enduring extensive amounts of trial and error, and then testing it on hundreds of clients, I created a nutrition strategy that works and works very well. I call it Strategic Carbohydrate Cycling, SCC for short. It's a simple strategy that revolves around high proteins and fats and limiting your carbs. The primary reason why I use this method above all others is simply because it works and works fast. When first starting SCC, it's best to begin with at least a 14-day insulin reset by removing practically all carbs and sugar from your diet. If you have more than 25 kilos to lose, you could extend the reset to 21 to 28 days, depending on how you're feeling. This is because typically the more excess weight you've put on, the more damage you might have caused, and the longer you may need to reset your sensitivity. This is where you'll need to learn the macros of all the foods you eat. A food logging app can help with this and is highly recommended. I've used the Lose It app and it works well. If you don't learn your macros and how to pair them with your goals, you'll inadvertently hinder your progress. Understand the value of the mechanisms required to achieve your happiness. When you understand, you'll do what it takes to win. Being in a proper caloric deficit is critical to lose fat consistently. While using a calorie tracker is not critical, it can improve the accuracy of your energy intake and thus in maintaining a sufficient calorie deficit. If your calories are too high, you'll either stay the same or put on weight. If your deficit is too large, you'll accidentally lose too much muscle and slow your metabolism. When you completed the reset phase, you'll eat little to no carbs for approximately 6 days before having a refeed day. Then repeat this process for as long as you need. 6 days no carbs, 1 day refeed, so on and so forth. Example, Sunday to Saturday, no carbs, or very, very little, higher protein and fats. Saturday is your carb and caloric surplus refeed day. For example, preference glucose over fructose as glucose better replenishes your glycogen stores. Fructose is the sugar in fruit, glucose is the sugar in most other carbohydrate foods. After being in a calorie deficit for 6 days, it's beneficial to have a surplus day. This helps with psychological motivation and prevents your body from slowing down due to starvation mode. Starvation mode can occur when a prolonged calorie deficit makes your body think it's in a famine, causing it to conserve resources. That's why once a week, on a day of your choosing, have a refeed day. Notice, it's never referred to as a cheat meal or day. No cheat days and no cheat meals, as there's no benefit to be gained by cheating on yourself. Refuel and refeed are positive words without any negative connotation. Refeeding isn't meant to be something naughty like cheat meals are. They're strategic, enjoyable, and beneficial all in one. On this refuel day, the goal is to eat normally but add high quality carbs to create a caloric surplus. Ideally, don't go higher than 1,000 calorie surplus, but this really does depend on your size, how big you are, how tall and what you're weighing. If you're low on energy and have ruled out poor sleep or stress, you might need to increase your calories slightly. Try reducing your deficit by a few hundred calories. Example, from 1,000 calorie deficit to 800. Adjusting from glucose to fat as a fuel source can also cause temporary fatigue, so give it a week or two. For excessive lethargy, or if you're quite lean already, consider refeeding more frequently than every 7 days. Consult your coach if needed. On your deficit days, prioritize healthy fats. By doing this, you help reprogram your body to use fat as a primary fuel source rather than glucose, which can speed up fat loss. When you stop eating carbs and deplete your glycogen via exercise, your body is more inclined to use fat as a fuel source to sustain your training demands. Fat has over twice the energy per gram in comparison to carbs. Remember, 9 calories per gram compared to 4, so be mindful of this. You should still have plenty of energy when shredding, especially if you have plenty of fat to burn. That fat you're burning is literally an energy deposit waiting for you to tap into. That's its purpose. Stored glucose in the muscles and liver is called glycogen. This provides reserves for the body to use as fuel when needed. If your glycogen stores are full from eating carbs daily and inactivity, it's like trying to overfill a full petrol tank. You should only eat carbs when you need to, like when your glycogen stores have been depleted, when you're bulking deliberately, or in small amounts when shredding. Otherwise, it'll be like pouring water into a bucket which is already full. Just imagine those pictures, the petrol tank and the bucket. Where are those excess carbs going to? It's possible the excess will spill out into your fat stores. Eating carbs can be considered to be like spending money. You should only do it when you can afford to. If you dislike the SEC approach, you can still shred while eating carbs, provided you maintain a calorie deficit. Personally, from years of experience, I've found the SEC method much faster and a lot easier to achieve my fat loss goals. Many of my clients' successful transformations have also been from using this method. But you should feel free to test and adjust and see what works for you. The best nutrition strategy is the one you stick with and the one which works for you. If you want to stay lean, fasting is a great way to cleanse your body. Allow it to recover from the digestion and assimilation process and to burn more fat. The process of constantly digesting food and absorbing nutrients can be quite taxing on the body. If you look at the similarity between the oldest people in the world, they generally eat less than the average Joe and typically utilize periods of fasting. There are many ways to fast. When shredding, I typically enjoy a 15-hour fast from my last evening meal to my breakfast the next day. Remembering that the word breakfast means to break your fast, break fast. No matter what time it is. If it's your first meal, it's breakfast. I may have my last meal at 10 or 11 p.m. and not eat until 2 p.m. the next day. Sometimes I have breakfast at 4 p.m. It depends. Sometimes it's shorter, sometimes longer. Although I do have coffee with milk in the morning as of this recording. I mainly fast because it's convenient for me. The coffee fills my belly and I'm always very productive. When bulking, I have to put in extra effort to eat more often and I fast less. When shredding, your stomach will shrink to your smaller portion sizes and make it much easier to fast and continue to eat less. When you bulk, you need to actively work to expand your stomach to fit in more food to grow muscle. A neat strategy that should only be implemented when necessary is to fill your belly when enjoying a refuel meal. Sometimes when shredding for months on end, we're still with regular refeed days, you just want to experience the sensation of fullness beyond satiation. Well, I know I do sometimes. To feel stuffed and not to be able to eat anything anymore. If you need this, you can safely do it on a planned refeed day by having more of your daily calories in 1 or 2 meals closer together. Ideally, have a normal breakfast and a larger lunch and dinner. This oversatiation will be a pleasant experience, but also quite uncomfortable, making you desire to return to a more normal, comfortable level of satiation experienced on your standard shredding days. You'll be hungrier the next few days as you'll have stretched your stomach, so be aware the extra tummy rumbling is normal and can be easily overcome by using the many methods taught in the previous stages. Use this strategy sparingly. During a fast, the body can repair cells and perform maintenance more effectively, as it isn't busy digesting food and dealing with insulin. When you eat anything, insulin is secreted to deal with those nutrients. If insulin is present in the bloodstream, growth hormone can't be secreted. Growth hormone supports growth and repair, helping your body function optimally. It's also a great fat burner. The more frequently your body releases growth hormone, the more often it can burn fat.